Okay. До свидания. Okay. All right, we'll start with The Gods of the Copybook Headings by Rudyard Kipling. This is Leonard Peikoff's favorite poem, and one of my top favorites. Now, the theme of the poem is the consequences of believing convenient falsehoods versus inconvenient truths. And the poem contrasts two types of gods. The gods of the marketplace. The gods really just represent beliefs that we hold. So the gods of the marketplace are the commonly held popular beliefs, which are false, but convenient and let you fit in. Then there are the gods of the copybook headings. Now, why are they called copybook headings? In the 19th century, students would receive copybooks, British school students would receive copybooks where they would write everything. And at the top of the copybook, there would always be some kind of wise phrase, some eternal truth. So this poem contrasts the consequences of having the beliefs of the marketplace with the beliefs of the copybooks. As I pass through my incarnations in every age and race, I make my proper prostrations to the gods of the marketplace. Peering through reverent fingers, I watch them flourish and fall, and the gods of the copybook headings, I notice, outlast them all. We were living in trees when they met us. They showed us each in turn that water would certainly wet us, as fire would certainly burn. But we found them lacking in vision, uplift, and breadth of mind, so we left them to teach the gorillas while we followed the march of mankind. We moved as the spirit listed. They never altered their pace, being neither cloud nor windborne like the gods of the marketplace. But they always caught up with our progress, and presently word would come that a tribe had been wiped off its ice field, or the lights had gone out in Rome. With the hopes that our world is built on, they were utterly out of touch. They denied that the moon was Stilton. They denied she was even Dutch. They denied that wishes were horses. They denied that a pig had wings. So we worship the gods of the market who promised these beautiful things. When the Cambrian measures were forming, they promised perpetual peace. They swore if we gave them our weapons that the wars of the tribes would cease. But when we disarmed, they sold us and delivered us bound to our foe. And the gods of the copybook headings said, stick to the devil you know. On the first Firminian sandstones, we were promised the fuller life, which started by loving our neighbor and ended by loving his wife, till our women had no more children and the men lost reason and faith. And the gods of the copybook headings said, the wages of sin is death. In the Carboniferous epoch, we were promised abundance for all by robbing selected Peter to pay for collective Paul. But though we had plenty of money, there was nothing our money could buy. And the gods of the copybook headings said, if you don't work, you die. Then the gods of the market tumbled, and their smooth-tongued wizards withdrew, and the hearts of the meanest were humbled, and began to believe it was true, that all is not gold that glitters, that 2 and 2 make 4, and the gods of the copybook headings limped up to explain it once more. As it will be in the future, it was at the birth of man. There are only 4 things certain since social progress began: that the dog returns to his vomit, and the sow returns to her mire, and the burnt fool's bandaged finger goes wabbling back to the fire, and that after all this is accomplished and the brave new world begins, when all men are paid for existing and no man must pay for his sins, surely as water will wet us, surely as fire will burn, the gods of the copybook headings with terror and slaughter return. Okay. Would we like to analyze that a little? Move on. The terror and slaughter is the consequences of the statism that this sort of attitude would lead to. So the idea is we're all bound by our collective false beliefs and will follow anyone who preaches these beliefs. And so, but reality will come back with its terror and slaughter. Yeah. Now,
seems just too closely linked to the return of the gods of the copybook.
It is exactly the same thing. So the copybook headings are the gods of the copybook headings represent the truth, the actual truth. And the idea is you can rebel against reality. You can, the line, you can evade reality, but you cannot evade the consequences of evading reality. So that's what is happening here. The people the poem is referring to, are evading reality en masse. And eventually they will set up institutions and social systems which will come back with a vengeance. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Okay. Changing tone. She Walks in Beauty by Lord Byron. Very beautiful poem. She walks in beauty like the night of cloudless climes and starry skies, and all that's best of dark and bright meet in her aspect and her eyes, thus mellowed to that tender light which heaven to gaudy day denies. One shade the more, one ray the less, had half impaired that nameless grace which waves in every raven tress or softly lightens over her face, where thoughts serenely sweet express how pure, how dear their dwelling place. And on that cheek and over that brow, so soft, so calm, yet eloquent, the smiles that win, the tints that glow, and tell of days in goodness spent, a mind at peace with all below, a heart whose love is innocent. It's the ideal woman, I suppose, as conceived by Lord Byron. Here's another beautiful poem. This is by A.E. Housman. I think this is just one of the most naturalistic poems in the collection. I don't have much to say about it, but I just found it quite beautiful. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now, is hung with bloom along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now of my 80 years and 10, 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score, it only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs leaves little room, about the woodlands I will go, to see the cherry hung with snow. So this is a person who was quite young, but realizes that, sorry? 33, yeah. This is a person who is quite young and who feels that even 50 springs isn't enough time to appreciate these beautiful cherry trees. This is the idea of just being in love with the world. So I recited The Sick Rose by William Blake. O rose, thou art sick. The invisible worm that flies in the night in the howling storm has found out thy bed of crimson joy, and his dark secret love does thy life destroy. So this is all about corruption with a very, intense sexual metaphor. Another one by William Blake, A Poison Tree. William Blake is such a moralist. I like that about him. I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears night and morning with my tears, and I sunned it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night, till it bore an apple bright, and my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning, glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. Now, let's discuss this one. What do people think this one is about?
Will you expand your position of believing morals?
Well, good question.
Because from the account that I've read from my romanticism studies, he's antinomial or he went against autonomial's standards of Christianity, and his poem advocated more of a metaphysical position beyond traditional Christianity, focusing more on metaphors.
I don't know anything about that.
So to call him a moralist is not only accurate but anachronistic.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the particular position you've outlined.
Yeah, but to have made that claim.
Yeah, I make the claim because many of his poems concern moral issues, and he takes a definite stance on them. So it's much simpler than that in my mind.
Yeah.
For example, I don't know if it's here. Oh, we'll get to it, actually, Auguries of Innocence. But the idea is, a robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. Those lines, what does that mean? It means that when you commit injustice against the smallest of animals, you are sinning against heaven, right? That's, I think, a very moralistic position. Yeah.
But with the reference to heaven, would that not sway it more into, I suppose, more religious overtone?
Well, he was deeply religious in his own very strange way. Yeah. I don't really understand the psychology of William Blake. He was deeply mystical, and to that extent, of course, philosophically, I disagree with him. But I just think that he has this sense of kind of indignation and righteousness that shines through his poetry. That's why I called him a moralist. Yeah. Now, this particular poem, A Poison Tree, focuses on the the tendency of resentment to corrupt, right? He says, I was angry with my friend, I told my wrath, he confronted the friend about it, my wrath did end. That's it. But he was angry with his foe, he told it not, his wrath did grow. Yeah. Now, I'm sure you've all felt this sort of thing, right? Where you have a friend and you confront them about something that you feel that they did wrong, and you talk it over, and then you're on the same page, and everything's fine. Whereas people who may never confront you might be plotting your destruction in the background. Right? Yeah. And in this case, his foe was outstretched beneath the tree. He basically grew a tree with a poison apple, and his foe ate the apple, died. My foe outstretched beneath the tree.
Considering that you read, I'm so sorry, is this Blake?
Yeah, that's Blake. Yep.
That you see this as him as quite a moralist. Is there, I suppose, I may be oversimplifying it, is there a moral that we're meant to take away from this poem with your reading?
The only moral I would take away is don't be resentful, and if you want a direct moral lesson, I would say don't be resentful, and if you feel you need to say something to correct an injustice, say it. Yeah.
Because that did happen with his friend. Are you advocating to also confront your foes and to open up those lines of communication? Well, yeah, with your reading. Yeah.
Depends on why they're your foes. Depends if they're intellectually honest. I don't know. Good question. I have to think about it. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Another poem with righteous indignation. Be Strong by Maltby Davenport Babcock. Be strong. We are not here, poem 28, page 14. Be strong. We are not here to play, to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. Face it, 'tis God's gift. Be strong. Be strong. Be strong. Be strong, say not the devils are evil, who's to blame, and fold the hands and acquiesce. Oh, shame! Stand up, speak up, and bravely in God's name, be strong, be strong, be strong. Be strong. It matters not how deep entrenched the wrong, how hard the battle goes, the day how long. Faint not, fight on. Tomorrow comes the song. Be strong, be strong, be strong. Okay. Now here's a poem which also has a personal story. I once recited it to my professor when there was a particularly contentious situation between me and, I don't want to go into specifics, but between me and a professional association I had with somebody else, not the professor, somebody else. But he knew of my situation. And I was basically saying, I'm not here to make peace with this person. I'm here because I know I'm right, and this is the position I'm taking. And so I cited this poem, No Enemies, by Charles Mackay. You have no enemies, you say. Alas, my friend, page 14. You have no enemies, you say. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. He who has mingled in the fray of duty that the brave endure must have made foes. If you have none, small is the work that you have done. You've hit no traitor on the hip. You've dashed no cup from perjured lip. You've never turned a wrong to right. You've been a coward in the fight. Any thoughts?
How did you read it?
Pardon?
How did you read this poem?
How did I read it? Do you mean like what are my thoughts on it? Yeah. Okay. I've lost the page. Oh yeah. I actually first encountered this poem in the show The Crown, where the actress, what's her name, Gillian Anderson, who plays Margaret Thatcher, recites it. And, I think she's quite admirable. So, the fictional character. No, what am I saying? The fictional representation of the real character, Margaret Thatcher. How did I read it? I think I took it at face value. I don't think there's much interpretation required.
Did you notice that there's quotation marks around this poem? Well understood.
Oh, that would have to do with my poor editing skills. Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, Robin. I can always rely on you to point out my errors. Okay.
I actually read it satirically. So this is a position that's quite extreme in its own right. So it's an antithesis of exactly what not to do. So at least that's my reading. Yeah.
Sorry, could you elaborate?
So yeah, quotations around this, because if you read this, it sounds like a politician, which would make sense that Margaret Thatcher.
Oh wait, actually, that is deliberate. No, you're right. That should have quotation marks around it. Yeah. Alas, my friend, the boast is poor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that's my reading of
Yes.
it. It's a satirical stance on taking such an extreme position. Yeah.
Oh, no, because he's saying it as a poet. He doesn't care about social approval.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Well,
Not as a politician.
I mean, in that case, what is this fight that he's so invested in?
We don't know. The point is not any particular fight. The point is that when a fight is necessary, you shouldn't be trying to not make enemies. You should be on the side of justice.
I think it's a true poem. Anyone that's done something worthy, you
Yeah.
know what having enemies is part of that.
Yeah. Well, you would know, right? And you've done very brave, heroic things, so you certainly would understand.
What about in the context of normal, working life where you're pursuing values and there's, you're creating something for a company and there's multiple ways of going about it. Neither is necessarily wrong or right. It's not an intellectual fight at that level. You're just, and there's no necessity to have any foes or enemies to achieve these values. You could, do it
Yes.
this way, you could do it that way, and both might lead to an outcome. One might be slightly better than the other, but no foes are necessary.
That's true, because that is not a moral issue. So if you're just disagreeing with another company director about the best way to do something, and it's an honest disagreement, you both want to achieve the same end and you're just disagreed about how to best achieve it, it's not like you're going to say he doesn't have the company's best interests in mind or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just you have an honest disagreement. There's no moral issue.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but that's just one instance out of a lifetime lived. You're not necessarily going to have any enemies. What does it say about somebody that's gone through life that way and not really, maybe they're aware of enemies out there in the culture, but they're never engaging with them.
I don't want to jump to the conclusion that that person is necessarily immoral. That may not be true. Because there's really no point going out and making a point to make enemies as an end in itself. That's just foolishness. But I think this person is saying that anyone who's ever really achieved anything great didn't do it by just agreeing with everybody. Otherwise, they would be like everybody else by definition, right? So greatness consists in bringing in something original, and that will not necessarily be liked. Yeah.
Would you ascribe Nietzsche's Übermensch to this idea?
Well, Nietzsche certainly succeeded at getting many enemies. So okay.
Can I request one?
You
If by
okay?
Rudyard Kipling.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah. If by Rudyard Kipling. Which page is that on? 15.
Poem.
It's fine. I know it off by heart. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, and make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated and not give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. Make sure I don't get the right. Did you say page 15?
No.
Number 8.
Page 8. Yeah. I want to make sure I don't skip a verse. Don't talk too wise. Oh, yes. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster, and yet meet those two impostors just the same. If you can bear to hear the words you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on a single turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve their turn long after you are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Round of applause for Rudyard Kipling. Yeah. Okay.
I'm curious, why is that one of your favorites?
It's one of my favorites too. Yeah.
The use of anaphora and periodic sense is simply so beautiful. It elongated enough, had enough discipline to hold up on its final conclusion. And it's the if and if and if and if and the there's a lot of disciplines.
At least from the first time hearing it through, I love how it waited until the end for the context of the poem to be revealed that it's a father talking to his son. Like, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I think if I ever have a son, when he reaches his 18th or 21st, I'll definitely read this and embarrass him in front of all his friends. Okay, Stuart, Lockie, you might like this. It's the theme of Atlas Shrugged, right? The Thinker by Burton Braley. Back of the beating hammer, page 11. Back of the beating hammer by which the steel is wrought, back of the workshop's clamour, the seeker may find the thought that is ever master of iron and steam and steel, that rises above disaster and tramples it under heel. The drudge may fret and tinker or labour with lusty blows, but back of him stands the thinker, the clear-eyed man who knows. For into each plough or sabre, each piece and part and whole, must go the brains of labour, which gives the work a soul. Back of the motors humming, back of the belts that sing, back of the hammers drumming, back of the cranes that swing, there is the eye which scans them, watching through stress and strain. There is the mind that plans them. Back of the brawn, the brain. Might of the roaring boiler, force of the engine's thrust, strength of the sweating toiler, greatly in these we trust. But back of them stands the schemer, the thinker who drives things through. Back of the job, the dreamer, who's making the dream come true. So that is a salute to entrepreneurs. Now,
So there's 3 minutes.
okay, let's get a long one in. I'd like to read Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson. I'll skip over parts of it. No, you know what? 3 minutes won't do it. Yeah. Let's do a short one. Page 13. Essay on Man, Epistle to Alexander Pope. Know then thyself, presume not God to scan, the proper study of mankind is man. Placed on this isthmus of a middle state, a being darkly wise and rudely great, with too much knowledge for the skeptic side, with too much weakness for the stoic's pride. He hangs between, in doubt to act or rest, in doubt to deem himself a god or beast, in doubt his mind or body to prefer, born but to die, and reasoning but to err. Alike in ignorance, his reason such, whether he thinks too little or too much, chaos of thought and passion all confused, still by himself abused or disabused, created half to rise and half to fall, great Lord of all things, yet a prey to all, sole judge of truth, in endless error hurled, the glory, jest, and riddle of the world. Skipping ahead, I had to cut out many parts of this. These are just excerpts. Two principles in human nature reign, self-love to urge and reason to restrain. Nor this a good, nor that a bad we call. Each works its end to move or govern all. And to their proper operation still ascribe all good, to their improper ill. Self-love, the spring of motion, acts the soul. Reason's comparing balance rules the whole. Man, but for that no action could attend, and but for this were active to no end.